Sakuigar, you are going to learn how to make this today. I have absolute faith in my viewers that you guys will be able to make this by the end of this video. All you need are some basic tools, so why don't we jump in to get to that. I've shown in previous videos this jeweler's saw. I think it's the cornerstone to being able to make pretty much anything you want. It's a great place to start with a very versatile skill set. I've chosen this punched out brass. I have about 1,000 of these coins sitting in my place, and I've drawn the Zero Company logo on it just with a fine tip Sharpie. Take your center punch and punch out each hole so that you have a place for your drill to go. I've sharpened the center punch so that I can get into these tiny areas, and I'm just hitting it with a ball peen hammer. You can use any kind of hammer that you have laying around. This is a 1/32 drill bit. I'm just putting it into my handy dandy drill. I unfortunately didn't record that, but I'm using number 8 size, again, Swiss Pike blades, and this is how to slip that onto your jeweler's saw. Notice I am using my cheaper jeweler's saw for this piece, and if you want to find one of these saws, you can get it at KMS Tools for about $25, I believe. Now I'm starting on one of the interior holes because I want to work my way towards the edge so that I'm not creating any weakness in the design as I go. This is very strong brass, and it's been through a punch press. It was actually cut out of a piece of flat bar brass with a punch. It's a very strong alloy to start with, and then it's been work hardened. It's about 5/32 thick, I think. It's a little thicker than 1/8 of an inch. I don't really know what that is in metric, despite being Canadian. I believe it's like 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters, something like that. It's not the easiest stuff to work with. It is very hard on the blades. I've been using this blade actually for a previous project, and when I finally do switch it out, I think I actually break the blade immediately in starting to cut. As I keep saying, you will break blades. Don't worry about it. It just happens. They are very fragile, and it can take a little while to get used to the tensioning and how to properly use them. If you just notice that hand flick there, that's because this brass is actually getting incredibly hot from the front of the blade. It's not the sharpest blade. As I said, I've been using it for a little bit, but it's something that's going to happen on smaller pieces because there's nowhere for the heat to go. So, and brass and copper based alloys are very conducting. They want to hold that energy in, and they store it as heat. That's going to happen. That's generally why I suggest people start with aluminum, but for this, I just have so many of these tokens sitting around. I just want to use them up, and this is a great project for it. You don't have to do the shape. You don't even have to do my designs. I just want to show you some easy, neat, simple projects. Again, I'm starting out in the center. This hole is almost done. I'm just a little bit of filing with the blade. You shouldn't really do that. It dulls out the blade faster, but I figured this one was about to snap. I think it actually lasts quite a bit longer. Also, you saw me there just touching up my lines with the Sharpie. My oil from my hand is slowly wearing off the Sharpie that's on there, especially with me rubbing the piece as I'm turning it. I don't intend to do it. It just kind of happens. Some people's pH balance in their skin won't actually remove that, but some people's will remove it a lot faster. So it just depends on your diet, any health problems you have, how much sun you're getting. So if you're finding that the lines you draw on the metal are coming off immediately, I wouldn't panic. It's just a change in what you're doing. With some of the more extreme types of art I do, like blacksmithing and whatnot, when I watch how-to videos, I can't follow some of their recipes because living in Vancouver, I'm right at sea level, so the pressure is different, the humidity is insanely high, so quite a few of the processes you'd think wouldn't be affected by such things are drastically affected by such things. Again, what works for me might not work for you. Try different things. If the process I'm showing you is not quite working for you, it could be an incredible amount of different things. with this jeweler's saw, I have yet to have anyone I've ever taught have any issues. They tend to get the exact results they want right away. It's a pretty foolproof system. Here I'm sawing to the end again, and then backing up and starting at the other end, which I had previously sawn, so that I can get a nice tight angle, because this area is very shallow in depth. You know, the thickness of the metal hasn't changed, but I'm trying to cut basically double the width of the jeweler's saw blade, so that's why I do that weird backtracking, in case you haven't watched my videos. And that's it for cutting. So now we go on to the dreaded filing stage. With this piece, because my cuts are so shallow, you're going to have a little bit more trouble with regular files. I'm using needle files made for jewelers in this particular section. But if you have a thin piece of sheet metal, you can always wrap some emery cloth or sandpaper around it and then just use it inside these holes. Quite often I use stir sticks from Starbucks. Not that I actually drink Starbucks, but because I take my friends there so often, I always just grab a few out of their little bin and then I'll glue them down to the stir stick, and that gets in lots of tight little areas, but I find they're a little too thick for something like this. So I'll use some like 24 gauge steel. This is the part you want to be the most aggressive with the file, because as you were sawing, you were creating striations and different levels. So if you weren't very good at keeping straight with the jeweler's saw, this is where you can correct that. See, what I'm doing here is I'm actually using the file to create different levels. So I'm following the edge of the Zero Company logo, then I'm digging in like it was a knife into the brass to create a sort of shoulder that I can file down from, because I want to take the outside circle and file it down quite a bit to be a different level, about half the thickness of the main logo. Now that I've established a good shoulder to work from, I've gone to a more aggressive, larger file, and I'm just filing down the whole side, starting from that shoulder I created with the jeweler's file. This is going to go a little bit faster than the jeweler's file, so you gotta watch as you go. and I switch back and forth just to keep the areas flat and even. If you notice, I turn the file like this and then just do that center area, is because each end has already been worn down a bit with the jeweler's file, and it's always easier to take more material away from the end of a stroke than it is from the center of a stroke. So, and then I'm also trying to create a little bit of a difference in the heights between the bottom half of the Zero Company logo and the top half. Because in all the photos it's shadowed in some way, showing that it's bevel. So I just want to do that. Also, this is a good time, those marks you made with your file for the shoulders, is a good time to remove it once you get everything down a little bit, because we'll have little V's on this particular shape, like the squares and rectangles, of your cross patterns. So if you don't get rid of that now, it'll be very difficult to get rid of that when you're in the sanding phase later. It's a good way to tell if you've gone far enough also in your filing, because I go generally only to the depth that I want to end with when I'm creating that shoulder. To the Emery cloth. Yay! So this is, as usual, my 80 grit. Sometimes I use 60 depending, but on this particular piece I didn't feel the need. So I'm just trying to do different strokes on different levels. I don't want to blend the levels together, so I'm being very careful in the pattern with which I take away material on this early level. Normally you want to go all one direction, but because I want to keep the levels very separate, I'm going different directions for this stage. When I go up to the 120, you're going to notice everything become a lot more uniform, which will take long to get there. I'm just doing all of the edges and inside seams right now. This is a more challenging piece because you actually can't double up the Emery cloth. This piece is actually about the size of maybe a quarter. So not a lot of room to be playing around, unfortunately. And onto the 120 grit. Woo! Progressing a little faster. I'm getting better at that. And knowing what to film and what not to film. Also, this is a tiny piece, so you know, things don't take nearly as long as that Mythosaurus skull that I did. I'm still trying to follow all the textures and whatnot. I want to keep those levels separate, but I am starting to be more uniform in what I'm doing. I'm also going at a 45 of my previous pattern that I was sanding in. It's a little hard to tell with the sped up video, but I just figured I should mention that. It's a little easier to tell here, right? So instead of doing long strokes, I'm doing small 45s off the piece, because trying to go directly 90 degrees to where I was going last time is not the easiest thing to do, and it really doesn't show up on camera. So this is probably not the best camera for trying to teach people how to make jewelry, but it is what I have. I've invested into the system for my lightsaber fighting, but I don't have any lightsaber partners, so I'm trying to utilize it and doing these sorts of things that I can impart my experience onto you guys. Now, I did actually forget to turn on the recorder at one point, and I missed showing that I transitioned to the 240 grit. I believe that's actually what I'm doing right now. I'm following a more linear pattern, and I've done as much on the internal holes as I possibly can. They're just very difficult to get into, but try your best. This is also an important stage that some people forget to do, is your outside lines on the sides. Just try and get in there as best you can. I'm not super happy with the inside parts, but I've kind of gotten lazy and used my Fordham for that almost entirely at this point. They look okay, I know that I could have done better. I probably will take it over before I'm done this, but trying to keep the barrier for entry as low as possible in these videos for now. Just showing you what can be done. So, thank you for watching.
Hey, this is Josh from Wars Escapepod, the podcast. Come and check us out weekly everywhere you find podcasts. May the Force be with you.